So I guess normally when we start these things, there's a bit of a fancy introduction. I also see that everybody came prepared with horror themed T-shirts except me. We've got
Yeah,
we
I
got
did.
Well,
some
the
Pinhead,
two
we got
people
last,
came prepared.
Last
I had the last
Drive-In,
drive-in. Yeah, my
yeah,
last drive-in
Yep.
T-shirt.
and the best I could muster is the Rat Anatomy poster over my shoulder.
It's fair.
Yeah,
It's
and
fair.
it's
I'm in my
falling. It's
garage.
falling off the wall.
It's falling down.
I don't
I wonder if
know.
it's. I'm gonna
It's mad at
slowly
me.
watch it fall down all the way down through the internet.
Every week it gets a little bit further.
You know, I was trying to think of a clever way to start this and find a place to drop in, but I think I'm just gonna we're just gonna play it. So this is the episode, guys. Hi.
All right, we're on. Hi.
This is,
Hi.
this is a surprise bonus episode of We Watch Shutter. As you guys are aware, Michelle and I are trying to do some things, branch out and expand the ground of the podcast. But also whenever we try to do something outside of the rigidly established framework of what we do, everything's kind of chaos. And so here we are. My name's JD. Michelle, are you with me? See, I don't even ask the questions right this time.
Yeah. I'm here, JD.
Yeah, Michelle's here. And special guest joining us here today, part of Good Cops Entertainment, responsible for a YouTube TV show some of you may be familiar with called Good Cops, also responsible for a movie, or at least co-responsible for a movie that we reviewed here recently called I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker. Derek Haugen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. Actually, I'm a huge fan of the show, so
well, we
this
appreciate
is actually
that.
fun to be on it. So,
yeah,
I love Shudder as well. I watch Shudder.
It's
Part of the we and
yeah.
watch Shutter.
Yeah,
The single best thing that came out of the pandemic era for me was spending a lot of time at home and finally dropping that first $5 or whatever on a month of Shudder because I can't stop. It's fantastic.
It's insane that they don't give you a free subscription. How do we get
Start
this?
a petition.
What we do.
I'll sign it.
We start branching out and talking to more people like you and getting some more ground underneath us. So Derek reached out to us on Twitter a while back, and I saw the photo on his Twitter profile, which was the poster for I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker. And this movie had been sitting on my I need to watch this at some point list for a while, just based on the descriptions. See, what happens is, like most people, I will often just get caught spending an hour and a half scrolling through my options rather than actually watching a movie. And so I have this list. And so I thought, well, I was like, now I definitely gotta take a moment to check this out. I'm so glad we loved it. It was a great, fun movie. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but tell us a little bit about just the backstory of I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker. Why did Good Cops decide to do something in the horror vein? And was everybody involved fans? Because this is a movie that clearly was made with love by people who know and appreciate this type of movie. Give us a little background and story about the film.
Well, we started, I guess, our Good Cops Entertainment from just on a whim, shooting a one-off of an episode called Good Cops. And then we created the YouTube channel, Good Cops TV. And that came about one drunken birthday party where we were talking about 80s cop movies, on how ridiculous and over the top these characters are in these movies. But in the 80s, it just seemed right, but in reality, all of them would be put in jail. And but yet all of them thought they were a good cop. They murder people. They would do these crazy revenge things, like Lethal Weapon movies. It's like, you can't do any of that. That's it's a lot of paperwork. And so we were just joking and goofing off about that. And I remember Jacob, he plays Nicky, Jacob Gibbons in Good Cops, and he was just had this scene where he was talking to his wife in the kitchen. He's like, "Damn it, honey, I can't do the dishes. I'm a good cop." And he slams his hand on the fridge, and then that was it. And we couldn't stop talking about those characters for almost 2 years until we finally decided to shoot an episode. And shooting that episode, it got some views, and a company called Machinima reached out to us and said, if you continue to make these episodes, we'll promote it. And we're like, okay.
Nice.
And so that's kind of how it got started. And we had like the first episode is just a one-off if you watch it, and then we had to come up with this story of where this goes. We had no idea where it goes or how it ends or anything like that. So we just kind of started writing this story and ended up doing 8 episodes. And then Machinima ended up picking up season 2 and put it on their channel and got a little more views. And then we did another web series called Tumbleweed, which is kind of based off the Red Dead Redemption video game. It's about a gamer goes into this video game, and he's swearing all the time, and he's killing people. He's trying to have sex with all the girls, see nudity, and he can't get to the next level until he starts playing the game.
Okay.
and so that also got a little bit of attention. And then one day we were at a poker game, and I pitched an idea for another web series about these brothers, and they were like the descendants of the last vampire hunter, and each episode would be a new adventure. Like they're dealing with werewolves, or they're dealing with vampires, and mummies and all this, and they were going to have like a museum like in their house, and people would come and visit, and they would tell the story of what happened with like an artifact or something like that. And then that just turned into this whole pitch meeting during the poker game, and Clayton, I remember standing up, he's like, "Oh guys, this is not a web series, this is a movie." And that's when we really started to hone in on the brothers and Ned and all these other characters, and it took about 2 years to really get to a script where we really liked, and we were pitching it to other companies, and no one was biting. And so we're like, fuck it, we'll shoot it live, we'll do it ourselves, kind of thing. And Clayton actually was the one that had this speech. We were at a restaurant, and I don't think he was standing on a table, but I felt like he was, because he had this beautiful speech on how we should go out and do it.
Just quickly, Clayton is your director, correct?
Yes, Clayton Cogswell is the director. Noel Carroll is actor, producer. He's the one that goes out and does all the boring meetings and the business side of it, and all the things that
everybody needs one of those people, and God bless you that it doesn't have to be you, right?
Exactly. I'm horrible at it. But Noel's really good at it, and so then it was, how do we do it? And everyone knew I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, and I told them, man, if we could get out there, we could get everything for free, locations, everything. And that's what we did. We ended up shooting the house, was my dad's. It was him and his partner owns the home. They basically buy these homes, and then they fix them up and they flip them. Sure. This was in the transition period at the time. And so we did a location hunt on all these places in Wisconsin, and we ended up going to my dad's house at the last one, and we're like, well, this is perfect. and it was like literally 2 blocks away from their other home in Washburn. So we had crew and actors stay in that house and the actual House Harker house. And we flew or drove like 21 people from California to Wisconsin, and we were there for almost 3 weeks, and we shot it. And then we went through 3 blizzards, so we ended up shooting, unfortunately we had to shoot a lot of stuff in California too, so that our budget kind of ballooned up a little bit because of doing that. There were a lot of things. So we shot like 60% of the movie in Wisconsin, and then 40% probably in California, but it was supposed to be like 80 to 90% shot in Wisconsin. But going through 3 blizzards, that's going to shut down.
Well, I mean, we're Fargo, North Dakota folks here. Well, Michelle, I have to.
I'm Minnesota.
A Minnesota person.
Minnesota, there you go.
Thank you very much.
I know exactly how those winters go, but I had so much fun with this movie. I think what I like about it is, like I said, first of all, it it very clearly was made by people who know these kinds of films, are familiar with these kinds of films. But I almost feel like ultimately having to go that more DIY route and put everything together on a much more indie scale, it has this feeling about it. It has that perfect sort of like ephemeral indie thing, right? Where it's obviously a lot of work and skill and craft went into this, but it also comes across as like, this is something you could do too, right? It has that sort of vibe to it. Like, you don't need all of what you need is the ambition, ultimately, is what you need. And I really I had a lot of fun with the film. I'm so glad we finally got around to checking it out.
Thank you so much. I think also you have to be a little naive.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Not knowing what you're getting yourself into. And we were definitely a little naive. And we were coming off the, actually, I was talking to Clayton, the director, like a couple months ago. We were talking about the movie and stuff, House Harker, and we obviously haven't made another one, but not because we don't want to. It's just, certain circumstances come into that stuff. Usually when you get to make another one, you have to make everyone's money back. And unfortunately, we haven't done that yet. So he was talking about just, how we went from web series to a movie, and how basically he said, we went into like if you like ran a 5K and then the next day decided, I'm going to run a marathon. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what it really was jump. Like. It was a big jump, I think we thought, well, we've made some web series, why not? We can make a feature film. We worked on, other movie sets, and we've all worked in the industry in some capacity. So we know how to do this, right? And no, we did not. And we didn't realize how much work was going to go into it. And that being said, we're all very proud of it.
Sure.
And we're happy that people keep finding it too.
Yeah, it's super fun horror comedy. I also was especially impressed by this movie has a lot of heart, like especially with Noel's character of Charlie. There's a genuine heart there. There's that moment early on in the film where and I'm so embarrassed I can't remember the sister's name from the film. Paige, yeah. But they have that brief exchange where she almost says a thing to him that was just like what the bad guys were saying, and it snuck up on me, to be totally honest. Like, I was not prepared for that level of some kind of emotional experience, but just really impressed every step of the way through that. Michelle, what were your thoughts on House Harker?
I think my opening comments was that it was stupid, but I like stupid.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. It's just stupid fun. I enjoyed it. It's really hard to do horror comedy. I feel like horror comedy is sometimes harder than comedy or horror because you have to do very well at both of those. And most horror comedies do not. They excel in one area and then the other stuff falls so flat that it ruins everything. This I thought had a very good solid baseline to start with, them being the descendants, and then like you said, lots of horror tropes and lots of little things thrown in. It was clearly made by fans for fans.
Right.
And it was just a lot of fun. And it was really funny. I keep thinking about the vampire just standing at the window, getting the cross put up against him and just hissing like that. That I could have gone for like an hour of that. It was so dumb, but I was laughing so hard through the whole thing.
You're laughing with the film and not at the film the entire time, as people will say.
Exactly.
So much fun. So obviously, like Michelle, and I think that's a big part of why it had sat on my need to see this sometime list, is as I've gotten older and as I've seen more horror comedies, it's definitely a matter of like, man, it's such a crapshoot, and this one turned out well. So it leads me, Derek, to ask you, tell us a little bit about your personal fandom when it comes to horror films. Are you into sort of horror in general? Are you more specifically that B horror comedy kind of fan, or just tell us a little bit about how you came into horror movies and maybe that a little backstory there.
Well, I was a scaredy cat when I was young, and I would watch them because I was a scary cat. So me too. And I and it just like I remember I watched it recently, but I remember Children of the Corn, the original, scared the shit out of me. Watching it now, maybe not so much.
Oh, sure.
But when I was 12 or 13, when I wasn't supposed to watch it, my parents wouldn't allow that anyway. I think it was probably at a birthday party or something like that, a sleepover. I don't even remember when I watched it, but I know it wasn't at my house. And I remember just being scared shitless watching that movie. And I think that's why. And then now that I'm older and stuff, not a lot of movies scare me too much. More realistic stuff scares me or terrifies me. I think one of the scariest movies is like the Stepfather, like that scares the shit out of me. Is it Henry, the Portrait of a Serial Killer? I can't even watch that movie. That movie is too realistic, and so even though I appreciate those movies, I can't watch them. They're too real to me. So I do tend to like B movies, I suppose. There's actually one I would like to ask you guys to review.
Oh, sure.
Winter Beast, and it is.
Oh yes, I have seen Winter Beast. Oh my God, Michelle, we might have to put this one on the list because
I will officially put it on here.
Man!
Wow, these screen grabs are.
Oh, Michelle, you don't even know. You don't even know.
Okay. I was. Wait, is this on Shudder?
I believe it is. Yes. That's where I saw it originally. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's still there, but yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I checked today.
It is
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, we may have to get that one on the schedule.
I always appreciate when a movie, I go look it up on IMDb and it is the length of a full-length movie. This is an hour and 17 minutes, but somehow it still says video below it, which is what they reserve for like YouTube clips. So I'm like, okay, it's the length of a full movie, but you're still making sure people know this is not a movie. This happens to be an hour and 17 minutes, but it is a video.
In the most strict sense, the most technical sense, yes, it is a movie. But oh man, this is another example of like you said, Derek, like plenty of ambition, but also maybe a whole lot of naivete, and we're just gonna do it.
Just do it, and then you're watching it, and you're like, you see something, you're like, wait, are they in on the joke? Is it one of the? And I can't go. Right. And I really can't figure it out. Like, is it that one of those movies that's so bad it's good, or is it like, are they in on the joke? Like, I can't figure it out.
Like the newest Children of the Corn. I don't know. Were they trying to make a so bad it's good movie? Because they succeeded, and I enjoyed it.
I gotta see that. That's on my list too.
Well, it's debatable. It's debatable whether or not you need to see.
I really enjoyed my time with it, but I don't know if I was supposed to enjoy the parts that I did enjoy.
I actually did listen to the non-spoiler review of that one.
Okay.
Michelle, are you still going to have a theater? Is it for your birthday, or was that it? Or
I would really like to, because I've done it before. One of my favorite movies is The Lost Skeleton of Cadabra, which is tiny indie thing where people just got together. Yeah, it's so fun. They're like 14 people just got together and went, let's make a movie, and they finished it in 2 weeks, and it's so funny. It's like a 1950s parody of an alien movie where like a scientist and his wife are in the cabin, and then aliens come down and are trying to interact with them, and it's just bonkers and so funny. So I've done it before, of renting a theater and just watching movies with friends, and I think next time, Children of the Corn theme. Popcorn, corn on the cob, some elotes, all the corn. Yes.
You got to get that movie on your watch list, Derek. It's called The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. This is a movie that I found just completely by accident back in sort of the last days of the video stores. Just browsing the shelves. A video store in my hometown had a copy of this. And I was, yes, there you go. And I was like, okay, I got to check. And it's so fantastic and ridiculous, and same sort of thing. this is a movie where I am 100% certain everybody involved was in on the joke, right? They know exactly what they're doing, but because they know what they're doing and they do it as well as they do, again, it becomes laughing with them and not laughing at them, and it's so good. You definitely want to check that out.
That's amazing.
So you're a Shudder fan. We're Shudder fans. That's why we have this show. Do you have any specific like all-time favorites that are available on Shudder right now that you would maybe like to point to people to besides Winter Beast?
I think Sissy is probably one of the best movies I've seen for a really long time.
I love that film so much.
Fucking believe people aren't talking about it. I mean, maybe people are talking about it, but I think when it comes to horror and then also just a social message, you know, which I usually don't like, you know, but I thought they nailed it. I thought it wasn't, you know, so in your face, you know, but it was there, and like just the warning signs of how social media can be bad. But it was just so well written, well acted, everything. And then the ending, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, like, dude, one of my favorite things about it is agree 100% with everything you said, but also like slashers in particular are one of my very favorite subgenres, right? I adore slasher films, and without spoiling anything for anybody, this movie is maybe the first movie I've seen in 30 years that does something genuinely unique and original with the final girl trope. Like, I thought that was so brilliant.
It's unique.
Yeah, agreed. All the performances are solid. Just a really clever and original take on a slasher film. This is actually something that I was just responding to somebody else on Twitter here before we started the recording, talking about how indie horror is still a place where originality and creativity is so vital and happening. I feel like in a lot of cases, we're seeing some directors who maybe never would have specifically thought to go into the horror sphere, kind of moving into that just because they know there's going to be some more freedom for creative storytelling here. And granted, we're still also seeing crazy advancements in special effects and gore and I don't know if you saw Terrifier or Terrifier 2.
I did, yeah.
But some of the stuff these guys are doing,
it's insane.
It's insane. Madness, but there's story and creativity. So for any of you people out there, if you're in this crowd that's complaining about how everything is the same and nobody's doing anything original anymore, that's nonsense. You're just not trying hard enough. Those movies are out there.
And that's the one good thing about streaming is that the movies that you're begging for something unique and something original, they're there. They're on a lot of streaming services.
If you're willing to make the effort, they are there. Now, one other thing that I just found out about today, because I'm terrible at research, but also because it might be a little bit more new or under wraps than I was even aware. We were talking earlier, and you mentioned that we haven't done a new feature with Good Cops Entertainment after House Harker, but tell me about Nightclops, please.
Nightclops, yeah. So Nightclops is a movie that I wrote with a buddy of mine, Jason Halls, and he runs B Movie Mania, and that's how we met. Actually, we just became friends. They reviewed House Harker years ago, and so I've known him probably 5 or 6 years by now, and we just started, sending messages to each other, talking about movies. I love movies, and if someone wants to talk movies with me, I'll fucking talk movies with you, and
for sure,
and that's what we did for a really long time, and then I became a fan of his show, and I listened to all their episodes. It's really, really funny guys. And then I just, out of the blue, was like, I pitched him this idea, and I was like, I said, hey, I have this idea about 2 B movie reviewers that, run a YouTube channel, and you could call it B Movie Mania, for example. And all of a sudden in their town, people start dying, and there's this killer going around killing all these people. and these two idiots realize that the killer is using stuff from B movies, and they're the only people that can solve the murder or whatever.
Love
the
it.
Murders, and that was like kind of the basis. However, Jason came back with these amazing ideas, but just blew it up in scope. And then now instead of a serial killer, it's more of a guy. It's more of this other being from a different dimension coming in and destroying small towns, and kind of like a Night of the Comet,
Okay.
where people just vanish, and but instead of the whole world, it's these small towns. They just disappear, and no one really cares because the towns are so small. And this writer, Arlen von Goss, decides to make a movie about it because it happened to his town. And so it instead of it becoming a warning to people, it became this cult classic B movie that people love because he made it like in the 80s. And these two B movie reviewers get an interview with him. And during this interview, Arlen kind of loses his mind and says, no, this is all true. Everyone thinks he's crazy until Nightclops actually shows up in town and chaos happens. And they have to use their useless B movie knowledge to save the town. It's kind of
excellent.
the
That's
basis
awesome.
of it. But then it blew up this whole scope. And I teased Jason because we wrote the movie with a lot of his amazing ideas. And then we got a poster and we did a pitch packet. And then we were doing we did the budget, and it came out to like $300,000. And that's still asking for a lot of favors. People were still going to have to work for free, and we were going to have to, borrow and steal a lot of things. And I kind of had a panic attack. And I was just like, how are we going to get this? How are we going to, get this money, and then how are we going to make this money back? And so we kind of put a pause on it right now. We are considering going back and seeing what we can change. I keep teasing him, like, if it was just a killer, we could have made this movie,
it was totally budgetable before you put your fingers in it.
Put your fingers into it, but at the same time, I read the script and I'm like, I don't want to change it.
Right.
And I'm really happy with the script. I'm really happy how it turned out. And there's a lot of leaked clips of these B movies that we made up that I would just love to shoot,
Sure.
And so they're in throughout the movie, and then they use that B movie knowledge, from a clip of a movie or something to help us save the town. And
I like
that.
And
so it would be a lot of fun to make, but it's just, I don't know where I would get the money. Well, I mean, we could do a lot of different things to get it, but it's just, I think the main thing is making it back. I think it's hard right now for indie filmmakers to make the money back, to make a profit. It's very difficult, and now with WGA and SAG going on strike, I think it's very clear that it's just not indie filmmakers that have a hard time making money. It's actually people that are protected. They're in a union, and there's things that are still unfair. So it's very interesting what's going on right now.
Yeah, of course, we always want to take a moment when it comes up to remind everybody, obviously, we are in full support of everything going on with the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA and all of those strikes there. Make sure that you keep yourself aware of what's going on in those situations. Right now, as I understand it, nobody in SAG-AFTRA or the Writers Guild is calling for any kind of public boycotts of anything quite yet as part of the action. So you're okay if you're still enjoying some films, but just keep your ear to the ground and make sure you know what's going on there. These are the people who make this happen. And the idea that, don't get me wrong, we appreciate the people who pay for it, but the people who pay for it, I think maybe should be coughing up a little bit more of what's coming in to those people who made it happen. It's seems like a little bit more of a partnership than the compensation reflects. And also, like you said, just protecting people into the future with all of these new technologies that are developing. Like, obviously it's not there yet, but some of the things we've seen with AI generation of content already is terrifying.
It's guys, like I'm seeing people raising money for their projects and they're using AI posters. I'm like, that's pretty fucking good.
No kidding.
I mean, and people are getting money for these things, for the nightclubs poster, we did it the old-fashioned way.
Side note, by the way, check out if you want to see that poster, get on Twitter. It's just at Nightclops, I believe, and you'll be able to see that that poster that they've put together as kind of a concept tease. It's fantastic. I just love the thought, the plot of the movie, the idea involved there, and just you getting back out there and getting some more stuff put together. Very much looking forward to seeing where that goes. If you ever do decide to maybe try anything related to some crowdfunding with that, be sure to let us know, and we'll be more than happy to spread the word to everybody that we know here and do what we can. I don't mean to rush things, but we are getting down to our last 5 minutes here before Zoom's going to tell us you got to pay us money, and well, we're still a low budget podcast. So Michelle,
I was just about to say, I have disposable income because I'm not having children, so I can throw that towards crowdfunding. But you're right, we do have to pay Zoom otherwise. So you can either have a longer interview now, or you can have crowdfunding for your project later.
Dear Zoom, let us buy these long meetings one at a time. All right.
I know. I could go on a rant because I'm like, I just want to pay for like a 2-hour meeting once. I don't want to pay $200. You can't do it.
I didn't know that.
Come on.
Well, I don't even want to give Zoom a time or day for this. So we only have 5 minutes. I do want to say Neil Fraser actually did the Nightclops poster.
Mm-hmm.
We hired him, and he was amazing. He was very affordable, and so if you're an indie filmmaker and you I think it's just Neil Fraser.
I believe so.
Neil Fraser 78. If you want to. Look at the work that he's done. He is he's amazing.
Not to be too embarrassing, maybe, or anything. Well, I guess you probably wouldn't be embarrassed by it. You put it on the Twitter, but if you want an idea of Derek's passion for this kind of project and the stuff that's involved, there's a video clip on the Nightclops Twitter of his initial fresh reaction to that poster design.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's very heartwarming and awesome just to see that kind of spark of joy where an idea that you had, and you see it's like, man, not only did this idea come together, but somebody else also got it immediately and was able to latch in and translate that into a vision. And just that, even those early steps, that's the kind of motivation you need to keep pushing to make those things reality.
I was definitely on the fence posting that, but
man, it's
I decided to do it.
I'm so glad you did.
Yeah, I think it was very sincere, and I think that's, and I mean, and I love movies, and if I get the opportunity to make another one, I'm going to do it. I have a family now, so it's a little different. I have 3 kiddos and married, and so.
Well, whose fault is that, Derek?
Well,
mine somehow.
It's Michelle's.
It's always
a matchmaker.
Well,
always my fault.
Before we wrap up, then, Derek, just anything that you've seen recently, whether it's a Shudder release or a not Shudder release, anything you've seen recently, like maybe in just the last couple of months, that you've really enjoyed, something new that really kind of struck you as fresh and original and enjoyable?
Last night I watched Annihilation, which is a weird movie. I think it's on Netflix.
Yes,
the Natalie Portman one, right?
Yeah, it was like I didn't know what to think of it, and then all of a sudden, like, I think I like this, and then it was just, and it just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder, and I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah,
it's based on a book. I just bought the book, but I haven't read it yet, and I'm very excited for it.
I believe the same guy who did Ex Machina and Men.
Yes.
Alex Garland is his name. And I got to tell you, when I saw that movie in the theater, and to be totally honest, that was a movie where I walked out of the theater and I just immediately said, somebody's going to need to explain a couple of things to me, because I am not sure what I just saw. But it's a fascinating film. Again, another fresh, original take coming through those kind of horror and horror adjacent channels, as we like to talk about. So,
and then on Shudder, I watched recently Possession, which that's a movie where someone's going to need to fucking explain what the hell I watched.
that movie is something else.
I'm glad I watched it on the Joe Bob last drive-in.
Yeah.
Even then, I was still confused.
Awesome. Well, Derek, right. Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast here today on We Watch Shudder. We're definitely going to be talking with you more on and off, stay in touch through the Twitters and everything. Yeah. Let us know how things go with Nightclops. Michelle, do you have any last words you'd like to add here?
Thing I can get through in less than a minute, unless we're going to end this like host ends, and it's going to be just like cut off right when we get to the good parts. So
right on. Well, in that case, check out.
I prepared a list of questions, but I knew you were going to have better questions, so mine were just on the back burner. So we're good.
Thank you for
you're
being
the interviewer.
Prepared,
I'm
Michelle.
just here.
Guys, check us out on all on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at We Watch Shudder. Check out WeWatchShudder.com. Go watch I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker. Follow Derek at Nightclops. And thanks for joining us. Say good night, Derek.
Good night, Derek.